Okay, so let me start again. Welcome, everyone. So this is our connection meeting. We had our final planning meeting for this meeting on Tuesday. We realized that attendance is small, but we went ahead and made the decision to move forward with it anyway, just to kind of keep the momentum going. We're recording it so that everyone can listen to it who's unable to attend, but I just want to say that we're all very pleased to have you join us at this moment in time. I'm going to do a share screen on here because I just want to clearly outline what our objectives are for today. And we're here. Obviously, we're the Kundalini Network is our global platform for Kundalini Yoga and meditation. And our focus for the meeting today is just really to present the progress that we've made to date within the steering group, and for us to have an opportunity to explore with you our collective path forward. So this meeting today is going to be about dialogue, creating a broader common understanding of what we feel the benefits and goals will be within the Kundalini Network, and really determining together the priorities and committees to birth. So that's really the whole key focus. We have a couple of breakout sessions planned as well. Before we start, we're hoping that everyone has a pen and a piece of paper close by, because we're going to start off with a bit of a meditative process as we begin this meeting. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share the next slide, which really is about our vision and mission. And I'm going to turn this over to Siddhi Neal to take us through this meditative process, and of course, to really tune us in so that we can all connect as we move forward together. So Siddhi Neal, I'm handing it off to you.
Thank you, Upadesh. It's lovely to see each of you this morning for me, whatever time it is for you. Let's take a moment to tune in with the Mangalacharan. So just close your eyes, press the palms together. Be in touch with your breath. Inhale. And let that breath go. Now take a breath in to begin. Adhikare name, Jugadgare name, Satguru name, Sri Gurudeva name, Adhikare name, Jugadgare name, Satguru name, Sri Gurudeva name, Adhikare name, Jugadgare name, Satguru name, Sri Gurudeva name. And inhale and go within. Exhale. And then gently open your eyes. And we see the vision to create a global community practicing and sharing Kundalini yoga and meditation with integrity, inclusivity, and transparency. And the mission statement: to enhance lives globally through the Kundalini yoga and meditation, and provide opportunities for professional development for trainers and teachers. in order to support the realization of this vision and mission, the steering committee decided to create a list of our values. And we can stop sharing this screen. And so what we'd like to do now is to take a few minutes to experience and embody the list of values that we've created, because these are our foundation for our journey forward in this new platform of the Kundalini Network. So I'll ask you to please just sit in your meditative posture and close your eyes down. Allow yourself to become aware of your in-breath and your out-breath, the expansion on your in-breath, the relaxed contraction on the out-breath. And on your breath, feel the stability and the support of Earth's grounding energy, allowing it to rise up through your sits bones and the base of your spine, letting this grounding energy fill your entire being. Grounded, now on your breath. Feel the grace and the blessing of the etheric energy flowing into your 10th gate, the crown at the top of your head. And allow this energy to fill your entire being. Bring your awareness to your heart center and allow these two energies to come together. Sense and visualize a warm, glowing light in your heart. Feel the love, the compassion connecting us today in our meeting. And connecting us to all those around the globe who practice Kundalini Yoga, who share Kundalini Yoga, who love Kundalini Yoga. Envision this beautiful, radiant network of individuals. Sense the powerful potential of our collective Aquarian network. Next, I'm going to speak each of the values that we share. I'll say the value, a short description, and give you a few seconds to let it come into you, to let it land within you. Listen and feel how each value can guide and support your actions and your interactions within our global community. The first value is inclusivity. Foster a culture where individuals of all backgrounds, identities, and experiences are embraced. Inclusivity. Authenticity, respect, and transparency. Committed to all in every communication and relationship. Authenticity, respect, transparency. Deep listening and empathy. Strive to understand, remember, and appreciate the power and depth of the spoken word. Deep listening and empathy. Relevance and evolution. Dedicated to applying ancient teachings to meet and serve contemporary times. Relevance and evolution. Compassion and connection. Build, act, and maintain a supportive community where openness and vulnerability are valued and creativity thrives. Compassion and connection. Collaboration. Create an environment where all can grow personally, professionally, collectively, and individually. Collaboration. Individual empowerment. Support and empower each individual's journey towards self-mastery, self-realization. Individual empowerment. These are the values that the steering group has identified. Gently bring your awareness back into the present moment. Inhale deeply, suspending that breath briefly. And then exhale and let it go. And gently open your eyes and look around at the community meeting today. Sense the presence of all who didn't come, who wanted to be here but couldn't. All those interested in this mission and vision we have. And based on your experience in this meditative process, take your pen and paper, and we'll have a few minutes for you to reflect on your experience. And you can use these questions that were just up here. And we'll use these questions to guide you, or you can just write whatever reflections you have. We're going to take these questions into our first breakout room. But for now, just capture your experience. So what was your experience with these values? Note what spoke to your heart, to your soul. Was there anything that you would like to see added or changed? How do you envision these values can enhance your skills as trainers and support the development of our Kundalini network? So
Cyrenile, could you unmute yourself, please?
oh, I didn't know I was muted. So we're writing our reflections to prepare us to come into our breakout rooms.
So are we ready to move, Cyrenile?
So yes, I think it looks like people are ready to move on. So let's take a breath in and a breath out. So you'll be invited to go into a breakout room. If you're with people you have not met before, please introduce yourself and where you're from. And then discuss the values, your experience with the values, discuss the mission and vision. And then we'll come back into the full group and share anything we want in full group. Upadesh, how many minutes will we have?
Well, I'm just kind of writing a chat, so that's so interesting that you would ask. We've allocated about 15 minutes, but I think given the size of the group, we can have a little bit more time because we're going to be introducing ourselves as well.
Yes.
Subhag, how many individuals do you feel like you're going to be putting in a group? 4 or 5 or?
Right at this point, we have between 3 and 4. We have 4 groups.
Okay.
And I noticed that Guru Charan has raised his hand. So let's hear from you, Guru Charan.
Yes, thank you. For me, in that meditative space, I don't remember what the values are. So if they're posted somewhere, that would be helpful.
They're in the chat, and also the questions are in the chat as well. So when you get into the breakout group, you can refer to the chat as a source. Both the questions are listed, and after the questions, Sachdatam put in the key values.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, I noticed that a few people have added in the chat that either they're in transit or they're in a situation that their sharing in the breakout rooms is going to be partial. So everybody who's here with your camera on or off, you have a room that you're invited to go to, and maybe you could let that be known as soon as you get to your room. I'm only going to be available for a few minutes. You know, that would be something that would be helpful to communicate once we whoosh you into another space. So does anyone else have anything to add before we're whooshed away into small groups?
I think wish away.
Okay, here we go. Updash, you and I did not appear in the whooshing process. So,
Okay.
and also Simran, you just arrived. So I'm going to manually put us somewhere. Okay, so hold on just a second.
Sounds great. Oh, I see us in unassigned. Yeah.
Yeah, people that have just come in. I noticed that Amrit Deva also is.
Hello,
Hi,
Subhag.
hi, Amrit Dev. Can I
Just
swoosh you into a room, or would you rather
sure.
not?
Well, I'm just about to check in, but I'm here, so you can switch me into a
Okay,
room. But the thing
and
is,
just when you
I'm
get to
just
your
not.
room, let people
The thing
know
is,
in your room that you're where you are. It's
yeah,
pretty
the
obvious,
thing,
but
the thing is that I'm navigating a new iPhone, and so I didn't get the invitation. But it's my ignorance. I'm sure it's nothing that you guys have done.
okay.
So I didn't find the invitation to go into the room.
Okay,
So
well,
I
I'm
may
going
just
to.
stay here and hang around if I can't find it.
I think your time may be better used if you're in a room, because
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah,
you're just going to be by yourself. So
yeah.
let
Well,
me
the thing is
see.
that I couldn't find the invitation, which is why I'm not in a room. It's not like
Right.
appearing on my phone.
But she
So
can put you in a room. Subhag
yeah,
can.
I'm putting
Ah,
you.
great, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's what we're trying to say.
Satnam, thank you for, yeah, I'm new technology.
okay. I think you still may have to agree to
There she
go.
goes. There she
There
goes.
she. Okay, let's
So
see.
now we have our Daskar, you and me.
Okay, I will, our Daskar's already, I assigned her.
Oh, you
I
know what?
don't know.
I think she's sharing with Pritam Paul. So I think hers on mute. So
Okay, so
and you
then we
must have
should
put
still,
Simran in another group too, right?
yeah, I did. But we can't count that our Das is
She's
that room
what,
only has
there was a message from Pritam Paul that says he's using his sound because her sound isn't working. So I think she's with him at his computer.
Okay,
And then
so
her computer is just
that
showing
leaves
up with
us,
a,
I'm going to put both of us then in room 1 because there are already rooms with 2 of us.
okay,
Okay, so we're going to go into room 1.
all right.
And I don't even know how we do that, to be honest with you. I don't see us as available.
Let me go to break.
Oh, thank you for coming back. So we are now back from our first breakout group. I know in my group it was extremely interesting. I could have stayed for another hour. However, time is money, as they used to say. And so right now, our task is to share, what was the most meaningful and significant sharing that happened in your group. I was actually in room number 1, so maybe it's wise to go in order. We did not ask anyone to be the note keeper. So basically, I arrived a little bit later. I found it extremely rich. And the one thing that was I would like to share with the bigger group is someone brought up the word safety as being considered to be one of the values that perhaps we as the steering group did not register. So thank you for that. I would like to ask any of my other people in room 1 if there's anything you would like to bring to the larger group. Besides that, as it was questioned as to the process of disconnecting with KRI and what would be next, that was a lot of interest in our group for that. And so I said that, we're going to be getting into that before we finish our meeting today. So room 2, what happened there with you all? Who was in room 2? Okay. Microphone is yours. Tejmoan, would you like to share a little bit of, what impressed you, what was significant, what you're going away with from that short conversation?
Sure, Satnam. My name's Tej Mohan Singh. I'm new to this group. I was invited by my teacher, Harikar, from New York City. She said that years being here, so thank you for letting me join. I know some of you already, but I am new to this, so I don't know all of what's going on. So part of the share was my fellow small group members filling me in on some backstory, so I appreciate that. The thing that really hit me personally during the meditation was the idea of relevance and evolution. I think there is so much wealth of teachings, and the community has a lot to offer. And historically, maybe we haven't always been the best at sharing that with people in a way that they can understand according to the times. So I think anything and any place that people are able to come together and package all that the community has to offer in a way that can serve them and elevate them, and they can understand in these times and place, is a really awesome thing.
Thank you, Tejmoan. Anything else from group 2 that comes to mind that you think could be valuable for the bigger group to hear? If it impressed you, it's very likely that other people will be, will enjoy hearing it. And if not, we move on to room 3. Who was in room 3? So, microphone open. We're all ears.
I think generally there was a ratification of all of the values that were on the page. For me personally, what stood out was the individual empowerment. And in discussing it, I think, again, we all agreed that that was very important to include. What stood out for me with it was that it seemed to me to be the only value that wasn't relational, that didn't involve a connection with others. And so I was, and others were trying to find a way not to soften or devalue the importance of individual autonomy, but to somehow connect it to something, the community, the vision, service, something.
Thank you, Gurucharan.
I wanted to add to that we also mentioned that maybe the transparency doesn't need to be in point 1 and 2, that it can stay in just 1. And we were also talking about that currently it feels lonely, so it's exciting to have this space to exchange and connect.
Yeah. Thank you, Guru Sansar. And room 4. Who was in room 4? Okay. Jivan Mukta, would you like to share a little bit with us about your takeaways?
Thank you. Well, we were discussing something and Pritam Pal was explaining a little bit further. I think that what I said, maybe I repeat now, is that we are dealing with values that are shared by current society. It's a cultural trend that the values that are exposed here are pretty much accepted by everyone in the modern society. So in that respect, I feel that all of us would agree to them, even those who are not agreeing with our position in relationship to yoga or Kundalini, or even people who are not in our community will agree to them. And I had 2 questions, and I think maybe I can expand a little bit more, is that we don't need to necessarily, in terms of functionality and institutionality, reinvent the wheel, in the sense that these discussions have been going on in our culture for, let's say, 2000 years with the Greek philosophers about how institutions work and what are the best practices to join together and create a functional community that serves a common goal. And I'm after this group in WhatsApp was created a couple of months ago, I've been following some of the conversations until I see that they are only that, basically. And I don't want to be rude. I'm sorry, maybe I'm too direct. I just would like to know, when can we manifest something that is based on our current discussion and create something concrete to make our community move forward from the toxic behavior that we have experienced from major institutions lately.
Thank you, Jivan Mukta. I appreciate your honesty, and I resonate with that.
Thank you.
So I know I have to say to myself sometimes, just be patient. It takes we're in a process, a collaborative process has its ups and downs. You know, there is something to be said for, you know, somebody making the decisions and pushing them forward. So we found in the steering group, you know, that we've all had to, you know, negotiate different things and be patient with the process that we're involved. But I think all of us share your feelings, and thank you for putting them into words. You know, we need something actual too. We need some, you know, a sign of something actual that we can move forward together with and in. So one of the members of the steering group has likened it to building a lifeboat. The lifeboat, we're putting together this lifeboat so that we can, when and if needed, we have something that we can sail away together on. So I don't know if that, you know, makes sense to you, but that's it. So, Dash.
I would like to add, I was in the group 4 also, and some members mentioned that it was not very clear to them how this, you know, all this process has been going on. And what I mentioned was that of course, these values are what resonates with everybody and with our present culture. The problem is to live them really. And we have seen within our institutions that some of these values, even if present, you know, in writing, they have not been lived. So that's why the values were is the core of our relationship, because if we can really live them, then we're going to be in a space everybody is going to feel at heart whatever we're going to build together as an institution. And also, I mentioned that within the steering committee, I felt that we're in these weekly meetings we've had in the last months, we really lived those values, because we listened to each other with empathy, and we reach agreements, even if in details sometimes we would not agree. So it's a very inspiring beginning, but also that in order to create some concrete things, we all have to invite everybody else to share and participate and create something, because otherwise, you know, there's going to still be a core group that will create situations, and what about the rest? So it will come to be again an institution that will be top down, and we don't want that. We want an institution that is really based, oriented, and we can all build it. So the participation of everybody, that's why we're inviting others to join. And this is the objective of these monthly meetings. The more we are, the more we can create what we really want to create as a group. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Fritz and Paul. And Updesh?
Yes, Satnam. I wasn't able to join a group, so I'm really grateful to hear from everybody and your experience about this whole process. I wanted to get a little bit more clarity in asking a question of Guru Charan. about the empowerment piece, only from the fact that, you know, when we talked about in kind of the previous PowerPoint, you know, we're kind of going through, in our last meeting, we really connected with everyone and talked about kind of what was the motivation and reason for moving into the Kundalini network. And one comment was that we were moving from this Piscean to the Aquarian age of one master to self-mastery. So in that self-mastery came that kind of individual empowerment. And I just was curious, Guru Charan, is if that was kind of the premise of the discussion. And so if you could expand on that, so I have a better understanding, I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I'm understanding exactly what you're asking. I mean, this just showed up in me, and I shared about it in the group, and some others said, yeah, but everyone agreed that this notion of autonomy is the word that comes to my mouth, but um, individual, let's see, where I have it written down, individual empowerment. You know, it's just, I don't want, I guess it triggers in me the notion of herding chickens, I think is the expression, where everybody's going in their own direction because everybody's empowered. And yet we want everybody to feel free to be who they are. And yet what would hold us is not that. What holds us is a shared something, a shared vision, a shared mission. And so having individual empowerment stand alone, for me personally, just didn't feel right. And I don't know if I'm addressing your question, but it wasn't, I mean, the notion of self-mastery, yes, the notion of being all of who you are and feeling free to show up just as you are, whether you miss sadhana or not. I mean, it's like, just be real with each other. Yes, all so important, being authentic human beings as well as spiritual beings. So important. And yet we're also part of a whole, both a community and an infinity. And I just don't want to lose that connectivity. And yet I know there's another side to the coin where people have been so, what was it Simran Kaur said, slavadars, you know, where people have been manipulated to do and not invited to share. So anyway, there's a dynamic tension in me around that. I don't know how else to share it.
I just
did
really
very well
appreciate
this
you
time.
expanding on it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted to, was have an expansion on it, in that the whole kind of empowerment is about that we have healthy boundaries, that we're not stepping on one another, that we have that strong sense of self, but that strong sense of the need for connection and community and collaboration, that those can actually coexist. But anyway, so I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity, and I really appreciate you expanding on that. So I'll turn it back to you, Subhag. Thank you.
Okay, I think that I'm looking at the time and a little bit with a certain concern that we have lots of more goodies packed for
Okay.
the second part. But I see Jivan Mukta has his hand up, and I'm curious to see what
Yes,
you
I
have.
just have to say that I need to leave very soon, but I think that it all comes down to the recognition of the value. I'm sorry to be so brute with what I'm going to say, but it's the value of democracy. I know this is perhaps not so easy concept, but at the end, if there's something that didn't work in the previous setting of our institution, is the structure was top down, and it was a religious community based on principles that were defended and they were reinforced by religious authorities. And the solution, I'm sure about this from all the literature that I have read when I was a student of political science, is actually that we would basically build something up based on democracy, that everyone has the same voice and vote, and they're all equally in dignity and value. And then when we sit together with that frame, then we can achieve everything that the values will inspire us to achieve, given that setting of democracy as the structure that we use as a way to live together and develop this together. That's it, Satnam.
Satnam, Jivan Mukta, thank you. So I think we're ready to move to our next segment. So I'm passing the mic back to Updesh.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do another share screen in just a moment. Okay, so for the next portion of our meeting, we wanted to kind of circle back to where we are and how we're going to kind of connect and move forward together. And again, have this dialogue and look at what are we going to birth together. So we're starting from the premise of understanding the components in the Kundalini network structure for trainers, because that's really the majority of individuals who have participated in the New Aquarian Assembly group that we've been sharing this information with on WhatsApp. So this is the slide that was put together in the PowerPoint that was distributed on July 1st. And so this is going to be our focus as we move into kind of our next breakout group. I just wanted to review this briefly, that if you look at obviously the bullets on the screen, really you can see our vision kind of in the first bullet, where the idea is that we build, we share, and we grow through active participation. For me, Jivan Mukta, I have to say this speaks to the whole kind of bottom-up process, that this is a democratic process and each person has a voice and has that opportunity to participate and contribute. And obviously the premise is that as we work together, we have to strengthen our muscles. We have to strengthen the muscle of inclusivity. We have to strengthen the muscle of collaboration. We have to strengthen our ability to be vulnerable so that we have creativity together rather than this kind of power struggle that we've all experienced in kind of the current structure. So as we go through this, then in this new structure, our second bullet is that individually, I personally, or I in partnership with you or with somebody else, can create a yoga school, a certifying organization. But again, trying to have the opportunity to create it so that it has some consistent guidelines and standards as we build and grow together, so that I'm not just that individual in my own power creating the school, but I'm collaborating with individuals within the Kundalini network to create my own, but share standards and share guidelines and share training materials and so forth. So individual or collaborative yoga school creation, we have 2 certifying organizations in the globe right now, which is Yoga Alliance or Yoga Alliance Professionals. So we're taking out that kind of standalone certifying organization that the Aquarian Academy represents or KRI represents, and we're kind of moving forward into our own individual or collaborative way to create schools. Again, through that second training schools, individually will be certifying, but wanting to create kind of common standards. I don't know how anyone else feels, but I know that I'm better through collaboration. I'm better through brainstorming. I'm better through growing and being curious about somebody else's perspective that I've never seen before. And so I think that is one of the premises behind that Kundalini network, is that we're curious about the talents that each of us have, and we share those talents with one another, and we kind of come together in a way to create common standards, not from a strict perspective, but from, you know, an organic kind of creation of what are they? And then within that, maintaining standards via global committees within an organized central circle. Again, mentoring of new trainers, connecting new trainers to lead trainers and mentors, standards for curriculum. We had a discussion within the, you know, the smaller kind of steering group, and, you know, the standards for curriculum vary among trainers, and sometimes it varies based on when you became a trainer within the Aquarian Academy, that there was a different evolution of what that curriculum involved. Did you start your training before there was a book? I did my first training with a binder, but then when I started to become a trainer, we had this beautiful written book that was created collaboratively within the organization. And then the student training materials, again, another kind of point. So this is kind of what we're going to be working with as we move into kind of the breakout groups, this kind of foundational of, well, how do we move forward? And are these the right ones? Are these the right priorities that we begin to expand out, involve more people in, and begin to kind of grow this organization? Are there any questions about this before I kind of go on to kind of what our next steps are? Does anybody want any more clarity on kind of the framing of this kind of network structure for trainers and what we see our priorities or focus could be? And Subhag, I can't see everybody because I have a share screen. Should I take it off share screen for now?
Yes, I think that would be the best way to do it. Let's look at
Okay.
each other because we have several hands up.
I can never find my mouse when I'm doing this.
The first hand that I saw was Simran.
Okay, Simran, please go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there any organization that we see ourselves emulating, something to compare it to? The U.S. Organization of Aerobic Instructors. You know what I mean? Like, is there?
I hear you.
So, would there be powwows? Would we have, besides this kind of formal, mentors? Would it all be online? So I was just thinking, is there something that it looks like that I can go, so we're going towards that? Because it just is something to equate it to and something to look forward to.
Well, I'm going to answer your question from what I know and then call in other steering group members. Right now, it's a circle, and it's an expanding circle. And so I don't see any organization out there right now that has this expanding circle of how we can come together in the circle. but I'll kind of open it up to any other steering committee. I don't see any other organization out there that's a model that we're trying to copy. I think it's kind of organic, and we're creating it new in that, you know, very much we're moving from one master to self-mastery. Well, what does that mean? You know, we're moving from an organization that had projected values but didn't live those values in the way people were treated and in the, you know, the power authority kind of process. So it's in formation. And I think the idea with these next breakout groups is to begin to answer some of the questions that you have. Cindy, you have your hand up as well?
We had one other hand.
Before Cindy? Okay.
Yeah, was Nirmal Singh.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Please.
Oh, thank you. And I apologize because you didn't really, but the last item on your slide dealt with training material. And because I apologize, I have to leave this meeting early. I wonder, in the July meeting, Tadin Tadinkar mentioned that there was a particular individual whose name I don't recall if it was mentioned then, who was actually or had worked on or was doing work on a particular manual that felt like it would be something that would be either finished or at least in some kind of presentable form. So it didn't sound like starting from scratch on a new manual for this meeting, but maybe I could get a little clarity around what may have occurred between then and now.
I think, Nirmal, there is somebody who's working on creating a training manual.
Mm-hmm.
We actually, at the very beginning of the steering group back in March and April, spent a lot of time about putting the topics together. We have an Excel spreadsheet about what that should all involve. But what we want to do is we do want to show that perhaps at the next assembly meeting, but we want to get collectively what we want before we just go off with what's done. So we want to create the collaborative process. And so we didn't want to derail this meeting by taking it to what's existing. We wanted to start with what do we want to create. So it's kind of like more of a parking lot item, if that makes sense to you.
But I would like to just confirm, Nirmal, that what I'm hearing you say is that's a need.
It's a strong need. I know for me, and I'm
Okay.
sure many others, because I can't make a decision about what I'm doing until I know that there is something in place to replace.
Well, we're gonna get there in the breakout groups. We're gonna specifically do a focus group on training material. And so how could that be done? So I just wanted to make sure there were questions about kind of the concept of that slide and clarify that.
And before we go to Cindy, because I've been told from several people that they need to leave at a certain time and will not be here until the end of our meeting, that one of our objectives for this meeting today is people volunteering to go into different committees. Specifically, at this moment, there are 4 identified specific committees in which we will go deeply into this, like Simran, you know, that was a great question to put together. So I'm hoping that some of you will join me in one or another of these committees, and from tomorrow onward, we'll be working to bring much more of this material together so that our next group meeting, we have a lot more specifics to share. So, Cindy, your hand is up.
Thank you. When I looked at the last slide, I thought, is this a group only for teacher trainers? And perhaps it's just a burning need, but I would like an answer to that. I'm also responsible in Sweden for the translation of the level 1 materials. And the process is going a little more slowly than we had hoped. But a big question that's come up is, are these materials, if we get them translated, are they even going to be used? And because if we do not support all of what KRI says, then our educations can't be done in the name of KRI, and the teachers cannot use the manuals. So I wonder if there's some clarity or some information.
Okay. What you just said is absolutely correct. In the process of disconnecting from KRI, we take with us all the learnings, the teachings, the experiences we've had, but we do not take any of the material. That does not mean that in another parallel universe, yoga books, Kundalini yoga books could be purchased as part of training material. Yes, that could happen. But the Aquarian teacher manuals, translated or in English or in any other language, are property, legal property of KRI. So that material we would not have access for or to. So, yes.
It
Did
is
that
my
answer,
understanding.
Cindy?
It is my understanding, just to the translations, that KRI is not owner of the copyrights of the translation. So there the situation is a little bit more blurred. So just an FYI on that one.
I
Thank you,
think
Judith.
the contract that we signed says that KRI is the owner of the materials, even the translated ones.
I believe that's the case in Brazil as well. So maybe this needs more investigation in specific situations to see if every KRI contract in a different language might be individual. I don't know the answer to that, but it looks like we need to investigate a little bit more.
And it might have changed because there were precisely problems with the copyrights for the translation. So it might have evolved since my last info.
And Cindy, to speak to your other question about, is this only for trainers? We know we really want teachers involved, but we have to start with the training because that's really the majority of the group. But I know we all welcome the teachers' involvement as well, because perhaps they'll, again, have a different perspective and also be thinking about what do teachers need at the same time as we're thinking about what do trainers need out of a Kundalini network organization. Because, you know, the whole idea is we're removing the hierarchy, right? There's always a hierarchy, teacher, trainer. Teachers, we have fabulous teachers out there, but maybe they haven't had a way to share what they're doing that we can spread across the globe. So having the network come together is for teachers and trainers. It's just that we're starting right now with the trainers. So please make sure that that message is out there for the teachers in the community as well, if you would, please.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to the slide and continue on. I do have one hand raised. Subhag, you want to call on?
Also, someone put in the chat a very pertinent item. I'm a teacher, but would like to be a trainer in the future. So we, you know, that's been in our discussions as a steering group, that Kundalini network at some moment in the future has that desire to be involved in mentoring and the journey from the desire to be a Kundalini yoga teacher to a certificate of proficiency, let's say. So are there any other hands up that I didn't see? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go back to share screen.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is the whole premise of kind of the going into the breakout groups. So that will be the next step. And as Subhag has already mentioned, okay, it's not going forward, so having technical difficulty here. Hold on one second. Okay. are you still seeing this slideshow? Nope, not yet. Okay, here we go. Now we have it. Okay. So the premise here was already mentioned by Subhag, which is the 4 topics. So again, based on that previous slide, there were 4 topics that were suggested for heartstorming, how the Kundalini Network can serve the community for our breakout sessions. And so as we move into these breakout sessions, these are the questions that we really want to consider as we discuss each topic. And the way that we're going to do the breakout group is we're going to have you join the topic that's most important to you. Okay? So we're not going to put you in a breakout group. We're going to put these 4 topics, and I'll go through each topic, but we want you to do this in the context of these questions. What global or regional opportunities exist for creating collaborative spaces for teachers and trainers? I'm just moving my slides around just a moment. How can we incorporate best practices from existing or new curricula? What would your ideal space for trainers and teachers look like? And then there's just this reference about the current curriculum that we have within KRI meets the Yoga Alliance and Yoga Professional Standards, but that this could also change. So as we go through, this is the first topic that we'll put up there. And it's, again, a discussion on what are the ways in which we can come together to support one another in the independent collective formation of Kundalini yoga schools across the globe. What are the opportunities to collectively capture the processes needed to register with Yoga Alliance or Yoga Alliance Professional and share with each other on the network? We'll capture these in the chat so that you'll have reference to them, but we just want to review them. The next heartstorming topic is about the curriculum. And really, there's a lot of curiosity on my part from here is what changes, if any, have you made in your curriculum? How do you navigate and manage the current curriculum? What are the best practices that you can share here today? And do you feel the need to have shared core curriculum and certain standards? So again, training schools or yoga schools, curriculum. The third one is training materials. What training materials are needed at this time? How can we use existing resources? How do you envision collaborating and creating and sharing training materials? So again, we all know Kriyas aren't copyrighted, right? But the Kriya manual that was created by KRI is copyrighted. So how do we take the Kriyas and rewrite our own instructions? You know, what's that undertaking look like? How do we divide and conquer some of that work? What are the topics that we want to have in our training material? So a lot of discussion around this. And then the last focus group that you can enter is the mentoring of new trainers. What's a good mentoring model to consider? The evolution of the KRI mentoring model, in my experience over the last 15 years, has continued to grow and strengthen and develop with peer mentoring and really strong tools. But do we want all of them? Do some of those tools have too much hierarchy in them? Again, what can we keep similar to the current model? Can we create new or improve and expansions to the existing model? And then again, consider additional aspects, peer mentoring, global cross-pollination of mentoring teams, create a global resource of mentors with the best practices. Okay, so those are the 4 topics. I hope my Maybe Subhag, you're capturing some to put in the chat. If not, we can do that. And then the next slide is how we're going to create the focus groups and kind of what we're hoping that will come out of these discussions. So based on the numbers that we have now, I'm assuming, Subhag, that we're just going to have one group for each topic.
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to have one group for each topic. Obviously, yoga school. We'll go into training material, curriculum, and mentoring. Those are the four. So depending on your attendance, again, we don't feel like we need to follow this first one. We thought we might have 50 people. And if we had 50 people, we wanted to have a couple of breakout groups on each topic. We wanted to ensure that there's a note taker in each group so that you could report back your discussion to the larger group meeting. Within each focus group, the action planning is to identify people from the group who are interested in continuing in this focus committee to further develop the topic. What actions are we taking? How can we divide and conquer? That's not the word I would choose, but you know what I mean. Get the work done. Exchange contact information within the group and set a date and time for your first committee meeting. And then the outcome is that we walk away with clear commitments and next steps. So before we do that, are we all ready for the breakout group to find your topic? Or are there any questions before we move into these focus groups? Subhag, it looks like we're all ready.
Okay.
And Shantikar, you let us know that you're leaving, but also if you want to put your contact information and maybe your topic that you want to participate in the chat, if you feel so inclined to do so, please do that. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, here we go. Members of the steering committee, please join the group that you very much. So we're back after our second breakaway group, and we're winding down our time commitments. So we have about 10 minutes for sharing. I went to the curriculum group on my first journey, and no one joined me, so I moved over to the yoga schools, and that's where 3 of us met, and we had a very interesting conversation. I'm not sure exactly how much needs to be reported here, but I heard in both of my breakout groups the interest of how do I do it? What are the steps I need to take to create my own school and move away? And that actually is a question that we have information already in a slide form of the how-to, all the steps that one needs to do. So anyone listening to this, you can ask us and we can share that. We have it already in the format. So I would love to hear from the yoga training manuals.
Yes, we were 4 people in that group, and somebody joined at the very end, so she didn't have time to express herself. But if you want to express yourself, Amritkar, in this context, after I resume what was said, you can do that. Something was very interesting was brought up, that the teachings were given in an historical and cultural context. And it's important when you deliver the teachings and when you create the training manual to to place the historical and cultural perspective very clearly. Saying the teachings were given this way, under this historical and cultural context, now how can you interpret it? So it's like, in one way, you respect the origin and the way they were given in purity and integrity in the past, and also you can honor how you're going to apply them today. And the manual should have this balance between the way teachings were given and the way you can apply them now. And that can give a very good, when you give that to the future, to the next generations, they can do the same. So I felt that was a very good and essential contribution, that when you do the training materials, you consider that. You honor the origin, and also you honor that you have the freedom and the depth to interpret them and express them the way in the context now. That was one of the things shared. And the other thing shared was that the philosophy is the core, the base of any spiritual teachings. And in the current material, it's not the base, it's just presented. The base is kind of the techniques. So it's important to give philosophy the place that it deserves, because it creates an inner attitude of how you practice the teachings and the practices. That was mainly the. Anything else you would like to ask, Ardaska? And also that the training manual can be enriched with many other disciplines or views that are not included in the core manual.
Like medical, psychological, hatha yoga. No?
Medical, psychological, hatha yoga, environment consciousness, that are very relevant now. And so it's important that the training material also include other disciplines that will enrich the core material.
Derechos humanos.
Human rights.
For example, to the code of ethics.
Right. At Majot, Cindy, would you like to add anything to the resume I made?
Oh, I think that was pretty complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Pritam Paul. And now let's hear from the mentoring group.
So I forgot to have a note taker in our group. I apologize. I tend to be somebody who doesn't follow directions. But there were just two other people. Neither one of them are in the academy now. I think one thing that was discussed was the rigidity of what is needed before you can enter the academy, having taken your 5 level 2s. And that can be a real roadblock to someone, either financially, time-wise, or for whatever reasons, but not recognizing the person and who they are and all that they bring into that space. So having a more informal way, and maybe trusting the mentor if they accept someone coming in to be into the quote unquote academy or to become a trainer, then that person is ready. There was also from the other person in our group, there was also this concept of how challenging it is if you live on your own, where there aren't other Kundalini yoga teachers and you're not a trainer, but there are people there who want to take the training. You're like, how do you become that person who can bring a training in? And so we had what I found a lovely discussion. So either of the two people who are in my group, is there anything you want to tell the full group about our discussion?
I think that covered most of it, but yeah, I just wanted to re-emphasize that my experience with the academy, even though I'm not in it, but just I worked informally in level ones as, a helper and formal intern for over 5 years. And just because of the barriers of getting into the academy and the time thing, I never got any quote unquote credit for it, which was fine because I just did it because I loved teacher training and I loved level one and working with the students. But the way it's set up right now really, I think, is a benefit for the people who are grandfathered in, who've been into it a long time. And that if there were less barriers and it was easier to informally work with a mentor and get people teaching right away, that it would help get the trainings out there to people who need it all over the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sivi Neal and Tej Mohan. And now I'm going to give the mic back to Updesh to wrap things up.
Well, I think the next thing on the agenda, Pritam Paul was going to maybe see if there were any more questions and maybe talk a little bit about, did anybody have suggestions on improving communication or overcoming communication challenges? So with that, I'll turn it over to Pritam Paul.
Yes. Is there any questions or concerns that have come up from this meeting?
Just in communication, I'm kind of thinking as I'm listening to the teachers that are not trainers and the discussion that we had in our groups about people that are training outrooted when they do not have their own. So I think one of the things that we might want to start looking into is maybe creating some platform that will help connect people with other people, teachers that are looking for mentors, teachers that are looking for, trainings to train in, and trainers that are looking for trainings to train in. I think that might be useful for the community to have.
Yes, and that could be another committee beside the four current committees that have been proposed, to make that clear to the bigger group that there are these 5 instances of participation, and one of them essential, which is that how we relate to each other, how we communicate with each other, and also strategies on how the steering committee can communicate with the bigger group. Yes. Thank you, Guru Sansakar. Any other questions, concerns?
I think we lost a lot of people, Pritam Paul, so I'm going to just segue
Yeah.
right into kind of closing remarks. And I think if we have anybody here on the call or anybody who's listening to the recording, that we really want to hear from you. We want more participation. So obviously it's very difficult. We couldn't actually record the breakout groups. You can only hear kind of the lead into the breakout groups. But again, info@kundalini network.net is our email. So if WhatsApp doesn't really work for you, please, by all means, send your comments. Let us know if you want to volunteer. We want to hook you up. Do we have any meetings scheduled from any of the breakout group sessions as a follow-up? Did anybody kind of commit to maybe trying to find a time or place to meet?
We exchanged emails.
Okay. So do you then, will one person from each of the group kind of follow up to see with those participants if there's interest in kind of creating a separate Zoom meeting to continue to explore and kind of create some form and approach to continuing to work on those focus topics?
Cindy and Atmajot Kar, can you please place your email in the chat so I can copy them and then be connected for future work on the training materials?
And again, for those who aren't present for this meeting, again, please send your comments, your contact information, and your interest to info@kundalininetwork.net, and we'll make sure within the steering group to get that information out to people who are participating in those topics. I want to thank everybody for their participation and their contribution. I do believe that one of the next things we need to hear, so again, this goes to the larger group as well as to all of you who are present. We want to redo this meeting at another time. So we've had a couple of steering group members basically say that they're willing to hold this meeting again with the same topics, with the same agenda, perhaps different presenters. But we're looking for what would be a better day and time that would work. So by all means, contribute your comments to that question as well. So to my other steering group members, is there anything else we want to say in our closing of this meeting? Other than thank you very much. Okay, it's 10:32. We did it. Everyone have a great day.
Satnam, thanks everybody.